Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you're watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight, we're going to be chatting with Pastor Jiva Sam, and he's going to be sharing all kinds of information from coaching to mentorship to arranged marriages and more. So stay tuned.
That I'm not the type of girl that go. Yeah, it's a miracle, baby. Wishing I would have a one night affair.
Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. I'm here with Pastor Jiva Sam. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Miracle. Good to be with you.
Yes, welcome to the GSL Talk Show.
All right. No, I've been looking forward to it.
Yes, glad to have you here as well. So tell me where you're from and then a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I was actually born and brought up in India many moons ago,
Mhm.
over 66 years ago now. And then our family moved to Canada in 1976. And so this has been home since then. In 1983, I went back home. My parents arranged a marriage for me with my wife, Slodina. So we just celebrated our 40th anniversary last August. And
Wow.
we have three married children and one adorable grandson who's just over 6 months old, actually. Little Judah Daniel is his name. And
Hmm.
so we are into that new phase of life. So along the way, I was pastoring. I was a pastor for 35 years, and I'm actually a third generation pastor.
Mm,
Uh, so that I think it kind of runs in the family in a way.
okay.
Yeah, but of course, God calls each one of us, and we respond to that call. And along the way, we had a really interesting invitation. We were contacted by the largest Christian television network in Canada, and I don't know if you remember this or not. You look very young, but in 2009, somewhere in that range, there was a movie called Fireproof that was very
Mm,
popular in the Christian community. And in the
mhm.
Fireproof, there was reference to something called the 40-day love dare.
Okay,
So
yeah.
basically, the way the storyline works is that this firefighter, his father-in-law gives him these dares, and that he's trying them on his own, and eventually that leads to a reconciliation, with his estranged wife.
Mm,
And so, what this television station decided to do was, rather than just introduce the book and encourage their viewers to do the love dare, they recruited three couples and asked us to go through every day and then do a little video blog at the end of each day,
mm,
and the audience could follow along with us. So many couples did, and one of the things that happened, which we weren't prepared for, is we would get emails primarily, from people saying, "Hey, we're having this difficulty in our marriage, this thing in our marriage. Can you help us?" And of course, like we didn't go on as counselors or with any kind of qualification. We were just a couple who, at that point, were married together for 26 years, and so we said, "No, we'll pray for you," and so on, like something very general. But
mhm,
my wife, Slojana, had a sense at that time that God was calling us into something, to do something with marriages. And
mm,
so she brought that up. And I said, Slojana, in my pastoring career, I have worked with a lot of couples, who are in distress in marriage. And let me tell you, we don't want to even touch this thing with a 10-foot pole, because couples in distress will suck the life out of you. And I'm not prepared to make that commitment. And
mm.
so, so she took it well. She didn't bug me, but every once in a while we'd be out, maybe at a conference or even in the shopping center, and somebody would come up to me and say, "Hey, aren't you the couple that was on 100 Hartley Street with the love dare?" And oh yeah, yes, that's who we were. And every time this kind of encounters happened, no, there'll be a little bit of a flashback to the conversation that we had, and slowly
Mhm,
very gently remind me that maybe this is God's reminder. But she never pushed me. And I actually, in the meantime, started mentoring some believers in the marketplace to help them to hear God's voice, make wise choices, and so on. They were pretty well all men.
Mm,
and they were doing very well. They were having tremendous success applying what I taught them, but then they seemed to hit a ceiling. And so I'm a little
mm,
puzzled. They're doing all the right things. Why are they not moving from glory to glory and strength to strength as they ought to? And so in my quiet time one day, the Holy Spirit said to me, ask them all about their marriage. So okay, we've never gone there before.
uh-huh.
And when I talked to each of them individually and said, guys, hey, what's going on with your marriage? Every one of them admitted that there was something not right about their marriage. They were not in
Mm,
total unity with their wife. And so it's like, okay, if God commands blessing where there's unity, you are standing in the way, with your marriage.
mm,
And so, again, I didn't pursue it too much until a few months later. I started getting some SOS calls, some 911 calls from some of these guys saying, listen, we're very close to quitting. And because we know that, you will value confidentiality and honor our privacy, and, you have some experience with the love dare and so on. Can you help us? So at that point, I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, I think you got me this time. I
mm,
cannot push this, further. And so that's really how we ended up getting into the whole area that we now call marriage mentorship.
mm. Oh my gosh, there's just so much here because I, I'm gonna say it again, even though I feel like I say it in every episode, and everybody's probably rolling their eyes right now. But I'm like, it's just so amazing to me how God keep putting you people in my life, and y'all talk about like things that I'm either in the midst of, or I'm going through, or whatever, and then I know this is gonna come out in the future, so I know it's gonna hit whoever is gonna need it for that time too. But it's always interesting how it's like right in the middle of whatever I'm going through, like right now when I'm being taught to y'all. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning. Because first, you were saying you're from India, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that that's like another religious system and things of that nature. And you seem to be that you're coming from the Christian side. So I would love to know like how did that happen for you and those details. And then we got to talk about the other stuff too, but let's start there. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So the official statistics in India are that the percentage of Christians is under 5%. People say between 2 and 4, and some put it higher, but it's a very, very small minority.
Mm,
Now, the area in India where I grew up was actually a bit of an exception to that rule,
mm,
because missionaries had come from Europe primarily, and there was a good segment of the population that actually embraced the Christian faith, renounced Hinduism, and became Christians. And the
mm,
missionaries actually established colleges, universities, hospitals, and so which means that, like, and they opened them up to everybody. So you didn't have to be a Christian to be part of them. And so a lot of people came into contact, with the love of Christ and the
mm,
values of the Christian faith through that. And again, I don't know the exact statistics, but I always had a sense that in our area, Christians must have been at least 20 to 25%.
mm,
And then there was also a smaller group of Muslims, and Hindus may have been, maybe in the 60% range,
mm,
which again is not the way it is in the rest of the country. And so my great grandfather was the first one that left Hinduism and embraced the Christian faith. Of course, he was disowned by his family and so on. And then my grandfather, was raised in the Christian faith, and then had a call to ministry and followed
mm,
through. Yeah. And so we, like I was 18 when we moved to Canada. And so at that time, today's India is very different. At that time, we all coexisted, peacefully.
mm,
So, when I went to school, right from, like the primary school, yeah, right from primary school, we had Hindus in our class, we had Muslims in our class. And, to this day, I've maintained some of those friendships,
mm,
with those who were my classmates at that time. And of course, when he went to university, it was actually it was actually called Scott Christian College, and actually the high school was called Scott Christian High School. And they were known to have very high standards of education. So even people who were not Christians wanted to send their children there because they knew they would get a good quality education.
mm,
Yeah, so it was not actually that tough to live in that environment at that time. Like we didn't, endure any kind of overt persecution. Every once in a while somebody would make some kind of a remark about, like, like, you're Indian, why are you not like Hindu, like that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it was not a big deal, and there was enough of us in that community, that we had that cohesiveness. And of course there were different churches and so on, but we were totally free, to practice our faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the milieu in which I grew up, uh, from a faith point of view. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now
Right.
culturally, the thing that always blows away people in the West is the whole concept of arranged marriage.
I was gonna get to that. That was gonna be one of my next questions.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, but I definitely wanted to hear about that first part because we know that there's so many different religions in the world, and of course, there's the question is like, well, what makes yours the right one, and then
Yeah.
all that type of stuff. Where so I thought it would just be good to hear, like, at least so we can know, like, okay, you grew up in the faith basically,
Yeah.
or if you didn't, like, maybe you could have came to it in your adult life or whatever case may be.
Yes.
But I think it's
Yeah.
always good to hear people's testimonies about how they came
Yeah.
to Christ. And so, shout out to your great grandfather, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying, and your grandfather before him,
Yeah.
and everybody,
Yeah.
because obviously it made an impact on the whole line. And
Yeah.
we talk about this all the time, just how, again, how important our choices are. And so here's another example, y'all. Here's another example of what a choice you make today can affect the future. So that's amazing, right? And so, but somehow, okay, so yeah, you said so you grew up within this faith and everything in that nature, but then y'all still did the concept of arranged marriages and things of that nature. So I would love to, I guess, learn about that because, I guess I grew up here in America and we all just kind of pick our own people. And, like, I don't think we even, some people are like, maybe we should because it's so bad out here these days that we should probably get arranged. But yeah, I would love to, hear about that. And, how did it go for you? And
Yeah.
did you like it? Did you embrace it in the beginning? Like all the little
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
So arranged marriage is really cultural. And
mm,
so whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, whatever Buddhist, whatever faith you may be, in the Indian culture, your parents basically, arranged your spouse for you. And
mm,
so there are a few things that make it work. One is the confidence that children have in the ability of their parents
mm,
to find the right match for them. Because, as Slojan often loves to say, parents have a perspective about you that you don't have, because you're
mm-hmm,
kind of caught up in, right in the thick of things. And so you may make choices often based on criteria that don't matter a lot in the long run. Uh, so, for example, like, let's face it, we all get attracted to somebody who's got good looks, some
mm-hmm.
personality, all those things, and all to me, like, they're essential. But there will come a time when the good looks will fade. Personality will change,
Mhm.
and so what will eventually keep you together are your values.
That's
And
true.
so the values come from your faith, the values come from your family. And so when parents choose someone for you, they're more concerned about those, what we might even call intangibles in a way, than all
Mm,
the the height, weight, occupation, all those kind of things. They're all important. But what parents do, like, okay, so the process works, this is the way it works in most cases, is people work with a matchmaker. And so I know in the Jewish culture, matchmaking, is also very, very prevalent.
mhm.
And of course, today, we don't call it matchmaking, but we have eHarmony, we have Christian Mingle, and
Yeah.
essentially, they are matchmaking sites, is what they are. Even though we call them dating sites, and
Mm.
what I mean. Like, it's just technology has caught up to it. But essentially, what happened was, um, in my case, we were already in Canada. And so my father contacted an old friend of his, in India, who was in the matchmaking business, and said, "Listen, we're coming to India on a holiday. We'll be there for about 6 weeks. So, if you can make some inquiries on our behalf, here are some things we're looking for in a daughter-in-law." And
Mm.
and
Wow.
so so the matchmaker had a list of fathers looking for a suitable groom for their daughter, and then he also has another list,
Mm.
of parents looking for a suitable daughter-in-law for their sons. And
Uh,
so,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. I'm just the reason I'm just looking the way I'm looking right now is because I literally this morning for my daily inspiration talked about a suitable helper.
Oh
Talking
yeah,
about and then here I am talking to you. That's what I'm saying. Like there's no
yeah,
way this is just the Lord. So anywho, okay, I'm
yeah,
I'm just kind of in my head. I'm just going like, wow, uh, God keep doing this to me. But
yeah.
anywho,
So we just prayed that this man would make a good choice for us. And of course
mm,
we also know going into it that it is not always one match. Sometimes the matchmakers will propose a few different ones. And
mm,
so in this case he was pretty sure that this particular girl was the best match that he could offer.
oh,
And so the two families, and I don't know all the details of what the parents talked about, but eventually they come to a point of saying, okay, let's go and see, for you to see each other. And now, now this may sound really hard to you, but there are many cases where
okay.
people actually get married to each other without meeting each other before.
What? Oh wow.
Yeah, they trust the judgment of their parents, and so they
They
may.
get what did they just do paperwork or something? Like how
Well, well, no, they probably would. I'm sure they would see a picture of the other of each other, so they know what the
okay.
other person looks like. Sometimes, they would see this person in church. If they go to
Oh.
the same church, or sometimes like somebody would go to someone else's church, and somebody would point, see that girl over there. That's the one that our
What
parents are
are
talking
there
about.
vows though?
No, no, no. Everything follows from there. So this is in the
Oh,
pre-marriage process stage.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So in
You
other
said
words.
they get married. I'm like, how they get
No,
married
no,
without
no,
the
no.
vows?
No, no. So it will all lead to a wedding. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, in our case, and partly because of the influence that I already had living in Canada for 7 years, where like dating was the norm, then I, of course, not only wanted to meet and see her in person, but I also wanted to have some time with her, do a little bit of a quick, conversation, interview type of thing. And her father was actually not too much in favor of it. He's like, hey, we're making the right choice for you guys. What do you need to meet and talk about? We've already talked about everything that matters.
Woo wee. Oh
So
my.
finally our matchmaker intervened and said that like he really wants to talk to your daughter. And I know part of it, what it is that you put like a young man and a woman in the same room, and even though everybody's around there, if we turn down the match, then that could reflect poorly on her, or on the
Oh.
family. And so
Mm,
his reasons were honorable,
mm-hmm.
but I insisted on it. And so we had I mean, after a serious negotiations, he gave us a very long courtship, which was 15 minutes long. And so, so
Wow. This is
in that
amazing.
15 minutes, we had to kind of talk about whatever was really important. And well, everybody always asks, like, what did you guys talk about? And so for me, the main thing was for Slojana to understand the reality of life in Canada was going to be very different from life in India. So in India, for example, like even a middle class family or slightly upper middle class family would have a lot of domestic help, to do the cooking, cleaning, all those kind of things.
Mm.
And whereas in Canada, of course, you don't do that. You are the domestic help, both of you. And so I had to make
Mhm.
sure that she understood that kind of creature comfort will not be available here. And secondly, I wanted to make her aware of the cold, because I
Mhm.
was living in Western Canada, like north of North Dakota, if you will. And so like very, very cold, right middle of the ball prairie, and like minus 40 degrees temperature sometimes. And so I wanted to make sure that like she understood that you're coming into a place, but don't worry, you won't freeze to death because we survived for 7 years.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
just to, and also it was a smaller community, so she would not be used to the hustle and bustle of people in India and so on. And then of course, like because I didn't have to question about her values because the parents had already checked that out. Uh,
That's good.
now she came into that interview really dreading it in a way because she was a new Christian, and I mean, she was raised in the Christian faith, but in terms of committing her life to Jesus and reading the Bible and praying and so on, that was new to her.
Mhm.
But and I'm a pastor, and so she thought, he's going to quiz me on the Bible, and what if I fail?
Oh. Oh.
Of course, I never asked her anything about the Bible.
He's like, "Look, warnings. Here's the warnings." Oh
So,
man.
we both, had rapport. Of course, you don't. I mean, you like each other, but at that point, you cannot even use words like fall in love or love because you don't know each other. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah. And so we trusted the judgment of the parents, and I took a couple of days to just think and pray and make sure that this was indeed God's choice for me. And when I
Mm,
felt that confident, we sent word to your family, go ahead, take care of the details. So then the first public event before the marriage, before the wedding, is actually the engagement. Now here, for the most part, engagement is a private event.
mm,
Somebody gets down on their knees and arrange a photographer to capture the moment. But it's just the
mm,
two of you, and you may have a
mm,
party afterwards, but the engagement by itself is just the two of you. Well, in India, engagement is actually a communal event, a family event, because
mm,
the Indian view of marriage is not just two individuals coming together, it is actually two families coming together.
mm.
Is that my phone? I'm sorry about this.
That's okay. But somebody needs your help, Pastor. Somebody needs.
Sometimes people don't message first. Anyway, and so what was I saying? Yeah, so engagement is a public event. So the engagement is a little bit like the betrothal in the Jewish community, where like even Mary and Joseph, the Bible says
Mm,
that she was betrothed,
mhm,
to Joseph. So a betrothal is basically saying you are marrying each other and there's no turning back at that point. I mean, you can break the engagement off if you want to at some stage, but for the most part, that's the sign that you're seriously committing to each other. And
mm.
so that happened, and then just the way the system works, like here, you have to plan 2 3 years in advance sometimes to make sure your wedding goes right. In India, they can get it done in a few days. The caterers
Wow.
come, the flower people come, and you just have to find a venue, to hold the wedding feast. A lot of times, actually, miracle, they don't even hire like rent out a hall or anything like that. That's a new development in India. They copied from the West. But in many cases, what they would do is they would just set up a temporary kind of a shelter, if you will, right in your yard, in front of your yard, back of your yard,
Mm,
and that's where people would come. They would basically rent tables and chairs and so on, and everything was a family affair. So everything
wow.
happened very quickly. I would say within 2 weeks of us meeting, a little bit more than 2 weeks. Like there we were, married. And then
Wow.
8 days later, I had to come back to Canada because my holidays were up, and then I
How
got.
you just been on vacation?
So we did go on a honeymoon,
Oh wow.
a very short 4-day honeymoon. But after that, I came back, and then I had to get her visa arranged, and so eventually she did come to Canada rather 6 months later, and so that's how we began our married life together.
Well, I mean, and obviously it's going well because I mean, you just told us about the amazing legacy that you already have and things of that nature. Man, listen, I know us here in America, we don't know anything about that at all. Like I feel like, but who knows, man? Again, maybe we need to get on it, because there's something there's something to, again, you already knew the morals and the values of the individual, which I think is one of the things that we find out last, unfortunately, as Americans. um you know there's just so much. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, when you compare the two, it's just so different. But
yeah.
then we're over here struggling, so I mean, I mean, now I don't know if we have trust for our parents that much to pick the right person for us
Yeah.
and stuff, because I don't, not to say I don't know if my family would have picked my husband. They might, I don't know, like, but see, I have no clue. I have no clue, like, what an arranged situation would
Yeah.
have been like for me. Probably they probably just stuck somebody in my hometown. Probably, I don't even know what that would even look like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It might be something to consider, though.
Yeah, yeah. Or let me propose something else. That obviously, our culture here is very much geared to us meeting someone else on our own.
Hmm.
And there's a good chance that if I hadn't gone back, that that would probably happen to me as well. And so what I think is a valuable thing we can learn from arranged marriages is that even though you may meet somebody, when you get to the point of saying, this person has the potential to be my life partner, make sure that somebody else, like your elders, your parents, your pastor, or someone you respect, also gets to meet them and know them and have a witness in their spirit that, you know what, I believe, God is bringing these two together.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may see some red flags that you don't, because you're caught up in this romantic haze, and you're seeing each other through this rose colored bifocals. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can often ignore, and the reason I'm saying that is because we've seen that happen in our marriage mentorship, because most couples come to us like a couple of steps away from divorce court. And so sometimes, when we start digging a little deeper, like how were things when you met and so on, quite often we hear statements like, well, I wasn't sure about that part about him, but I was pretty sure he would change once we got married. Now what's even worse is somebody saying, I was sure I could change him once we got married, and then discovering that a leopard cannot change its spots, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody else can rub the spots off that leopard either.
Right.
Yeah.
That.
So that part of it. The second thing that Slojana would often emphasize when we have these questions asked is that we grew up with our parents saying divorce is not a word you would find in our dictionary.
Mm,
In other words, when you got married, you're making a commitment for life, and when things went wrong, which they always do in any marriage, including arranged marriages, then your first thought is not, my parents picked the wrong person for me, so we should get divorced, I should start again. The first thought is, how can we make this work?
mm,
Where did we go wrong? Let's see if we can discover ourselves and make a new determination to make it work. Or let's find some help. Find a
mm,
talk to our pastor. If you're Christian, talk to somebody in the family. Like, one of the benefits in India that you have is the family structure is so strong that when you have issues in your marriage, you may not talk to your parents, but there's usually an auntie or an uncle that you can confide in, and they will give you some very impartial advice, because parents will be partial, and then they'll show it in the way they treat the other one that mistreated their
mm,
daughter or son. And so this
mhm,
way, it's safe. You have those safe places built in within your family. I don't see that quite in action in the North American culture. We tend to suffer on our own for the most part, and if we do turn, quite often, a lot of us, I think, we're just very independent people. We're raised that way. And so we almost see asking for help as a sign of weakness. And
mhm,
until we absolutely have to, or sometimes we're worried. Like, if I go to my pastor, and, my pastor thinks, like I'm the second coming of Jesus. And, and if I told him that, I was struggling in my marriage, well, that's not going to look good. If I'm a deacon, he may ask me to step down. Like, if I'm a worship
mhm,
leader, I may not be allowed to lead worship anymore. All these, the thoughts that are put there by the enemy. So
mhm,
eventually, you don't find out until somebody's gone way too far and done something stupid, and now the marriage looks like it's at an irreparable place, and then the
mhm,
pastor finds out about it. So to me, the Indian culture promotes this kind of having these kind of honest, open conversations, within the family structure, and then going beyond it. And so I think these are some things that we can learn,
mhm,
even though we don't have to embrace arranged marriage the way it is practiced in India. We
mhm,
can still learn from some of the things that make it work. And
mhm,
so, like Slotan had, our share of struggles. The first few years were very difficult because, in some ways, we're getting to know each other and doing married life and parenting, all at the same time,
mhm,
which is not easy. And so there were a lot of give and take. I know the many ways in which I had to change. And again, the Indian culture is patriarchal very much, and so I was kind of used to making all the decisions and kind of having things done my way. And she like practice the submission in the best possible sense of the word. She knows she's not a doormat, but there's an alignment that God has set in place, and you need to honor it. But she was also getting a little bit more influenced by the way women lived in this country. And so
mhm,
so so and I knew that already. And so we had to make a lot of adjustments. And but eventually, what, we worked some things out. We never ever had to go and seek marriage counseling for ourselves, but we did attend like marriage seminars. We read some books along the way, and we had some good role models, even though our family was not nearby. And Sulojan had no family in Canada at all. we had some good friends that we connected with, and we even did like we did a sideline business at the time, and even through that business association, we saw some really good role models, and followed their example or got their advice. And so it was a bit of a like a trial and error, way in a way. But
Mm-hmm.
the good news is, because we went through all of that, we're now able to take the benefit of what we learned from those experiences and help couples, you know, uh, either who are in a marriage where there's difficulties, and help them walk through it and get a breakthrough and not break down. Or we now are actually beginning to work also with couples before they get married, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that when they get into marriage, they're adequately prepared for the realities of married life. Because in our society, the wedding is such a big thing, and there's so much pressure to make sure everything goes right on the wedding day. Like, one of the things we started doing recently is actually get a booth in wedding shows, and so we you get to talk to a lot of couples when you go to one of these shows, and they are just under so much stress to make sure that, like, everything is arranged, everything is done by ahead of time. You get the right DJ, you get the right photographer, videographer, flowers, all this kind of stuff, and the emphasis is on the one day. And unfortunately, many of them, when we talk, when like, our booth kind of sticks out like a sore thumb among everything else, because we're basically talking about the day after and the days after. and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm shocked at how many couples believe they don't need any kind of marriage preparation. Well, we've gone through some things together, and many of them, of course, have been cohabiting before they get married. So we know everything that is to know about each other. Where there'll be no surprises, like that. All of which inside I'm laughing out loud, right? Like, it's like wait to see what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if they listen, I'll tell them, listen, by the way, statistics are that those who cohabit before marriage have a higher rate of divorce than those who don't. And so don't get too complacent. Take our card. When you need to talk to somebody, we're here for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So arranged marriage, you do it, God does it, your parents do it, your family does it, your friend introduces you. Doesn't matter what it is. Ultimately, your marriage becomes what you make of it, and how well you are determined to honor the commitment. And in the Christian faith, marriage is a covenant with God first,
Mm-hmm.
and then with each other. And so, we got to take the covenant seriously, that we made with God. He's behind it. He's going to throw all his resources behind you to make that covenant last. And we have to do our part to make sure that we also honor that covenant and do what is our own part, in that marriage.
Man, listen, I'm just like a sponge soaking up all this wisdom right now. 'Cause I think that's what I need at this moment. Yeah. Well, one, I appreciate you being so open and transparent about, your particular situation and different things you had along the way. I think, yes, you're completely right about when it comes to learning from the Indian culture in regards to family and because you got it independence, but I was more so thinking about like even this morning when I was talking about this on the daily inspiration, um, was that the enemy tries to isolate us, right? He tries to make us handle things alone so much that when we don't sometimes we don't know where to go for solid good advice or things of that nature and I feel like this is one of the main ways that the enemy comes in and attack marriages, and because of course anything that's God's design, he's attacking. So, again, whether it was arranged or not, I mean, if you, especially if we're believers, and what they call kingdom marriages, I feel like the enemy is coming for our in a variety of different ways, and
Yeah.
so. So I mean, obviously, you guys have stood the test of time. I was gonna ask you, do you know of any arranged marriages that like just were completely horrible? But I mean, I don't know.
Well,
Obviously not yours,
yeah.
right?
Well, like, I mean, we have heard of, and I think Slogan said she has been aware of some marriages that were arranged by parents against against the wishes, and in the cases that we're aware of, against the wishes of the daughter. So the
Mm.
girl was forced to marry somebody because of parental pressure, to
Oh.
someone that, even going in, she was not totally in favor of it, but because of the societal pressure, and this
Mm,
thing about you cannot go against your parents, then sadly, some of them did not end well, or they turned out to be lives of misery that somebody just decided to put up with it.
mm,
Even a little bit of a fatalistic kind of understanding. Well, this is my fate, and whatever I did to deserve this, I can't change it. That type of thing. So yeah, like
wow.
parents make mistakes, and sometimes parents will impose their will on their children. So that does happen. Uh,
Mm,
but in most cases, and again, I can't put any percentages on it, but most of the marriages that we saw, of course, all the marriages that we saw pretty well were arranged. As a matter of fact, when we were growing up, there was this cute expression that if somebody didn't marry another person in an arranged marriage, it was called a love marriage.
oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, do you see that odd couple there? Theirs is a love marriage.
Oh, wow.
They chose each other because that
Oh, it
was
was said in like almost a bad way then.
yeah, it was like no, no, that was not the right thing to do. They really should have, had their parents arrange their marriage, and let's see if it works out. Like it's almost like that kind of an attitude,
Oh, wow.
because it was so oddball.
Wow.
But really, but everyone else's marriage was an arranged marriage, and you knew, in the close family circles, you knew what kind of problems some of your aunts and uncles and others were having, but you also began to see how they were able to work some things through, and
Mm,
are there people in arranged marriages that continue to suffer in silence? Absolutely. Like that's just the reality. And again, um, like because we get calls occasionally from couples in the Indian community, and so we are privy to some of those details of people,
mm,
where one person refuses to change. More often than not, it's the guy,
mm,
and so yeah, that does make for some difficult moments. However, if they take advantage of what is available to them, within their families, or in the churches they connect with, or reaching out to people like us, then there's hope,
mm,
because God has a vested interest in making sure that they remain one flesh until death,
mm,
parts them. So
mhm. So then somehow you and your wife, you guys were blessed with this opportunity to from based on the Fireproof movie to, in a lot of ways, I guess, do what you guys are doing now, except on a different level of I guess helping these couples and things of that nature. So how did that happen? Like I know you kind of told us a little bit, but like was it really just kind of out of the blue like that, or was it like somebody submitted for something, or like how did you guys get that opportunity?
like, to be on that show, you mean?
Mhm.
Or
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yeah, to be on the
okay,
show.
yeah, yeah. So we have a couple of friends, who are part of that network, who
Oh.
are, yeah, yeah. And so I guess they had a brainstorming session, and saying like, who are some potential couples that we could invite to do this. And so our name, came up, and also, they told us later on that one of the reasons that they picked us is because, like, we were the only couple, with an arranged marriage,
Mm,
and also I think I may have been the only pastor, among the
mm,
three couples that they chose. So
mm,
there were a few reasons why we stood out, among the group that was brainstormed. And I don't think everybody that they approached also said yes either, because it was
mm,
quite a commitment. Like you need to do that every day for 40 days and do a
mm.
little blog at the end of the day. And we knew that was a huge commitment. As a matter of fact, Sloja tells me that she did not know that going in. She said, "Oh, they're going to do an interview with us. What is this stuff about doing it for 40 days?"
Oh. Oh, wait, they had to live with you all?
Pardon me?
The people had to live with you?
No, 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 no. The
Oh.
interview, like, but to do it every day for 40 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did not realize it was that long a commitment. Uh, but
You left
but
out those details, Pastor.
but once we started doing it, like, she really got into it even more than I did. And
Mm,
so it turned out to be one of the best things, because we thought we had a really good marriage at that point. But some of the dares made us dig even deeper, and
mm,
and, and really made our marriage even stronger, which actually was really great, because a little bit after that I had a health scare, and so we had to
mm,
go through it. And really, we were going through it from a position of strength, in our marriage, rather than, my goodness, somebody keeps very persistent in calling me. And so so that actually, yeah, was one of the best things that we could have done for
Hmm.
our marriage. And then eventually, to see how God used it to where we are today, is just amazing. Of course we had no idea it would lead to what we're doing today.
I know that's really cool. Do you want to take a moment just in case it's an emergency?
No, no, it's not an emergency. It's
Not
just
emergency.
somebody in a different time zone that's trying to get a hold of me.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure. I want you to be like, I
And
know
I'm,
you the pastor out here. You know what
I'm not tech savvy enough to do the do not disturb. There we go. Let me put the do not disturb on. So there. Okay,
I'm
hopefully
saying?
that'll stop it.
Okay. No problem. So I mean, well, yeah. So you guys had an amazing opportunity, and then the Lord was, letting you know that He wanted you guys to go deeper with this, and you was
Yes.
running away like Jonah. And so you got to the point where you are today. And so now that you have started to go down this path and you are actually doing this and mentoring people and things of that nature, I know that you guys have to be having an amazing impact just because I just know how again the enemy is trying to attack marriages. So you probably got plenty of clients, at least those that are actually acknowledging, the issue. Um, so I would love to hear like how is it going and you know, I guess maybe one significant couple that you guys have helped thus far and that really has stood out to you that lets you know that hey, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously, we knew we had a calling to do it, but we weren't sure how to go about doing it. And so
Mhm.
again, like we rely totally on the Lord, to guide us in that process. So it's really incredible how the Lord did that for us. We were actually flying from Toronto to Los Angeles, which is about a 5-hour flight, and
Mm.
somewhere up about 38,000 feet in the sky, all of a sudden I started to get this download. So I pulled out the iPad and just started writing down everything that I was receiving, and then just put it away. And then we looked back at it a couple of days later, and I looked at it and said to Slojana, I think we have the outline for what we're supposed to do. And
Mm.
so we looked at it, and it's like, yeah, it's all there. We just need to put it in the proper order. And so I don't know how to go about doing it. So, I paid for coaching, to make sure that we did it properly. And also, we knew that we had to get the word out online. And I really hadn't done anything online at that point in terms of a business. I'd
Mm.
seen some other people do it, so we got some guidance, and they told us like make a little video, like explaining what you're doing, who you're looking for, and just throw it on Facebook. Now this is back in the days when you put something on Facebook, people actually got to see it, and so the algorithm was in your favor, and
Right.
so within a few days, a young woman contacted us that I knew her from before, and she said, we've been only married for 4 years, but we're living like roommates under the same roof. And we're beginning to, say things like, we should never have gotten married. And she said, deep down, I know that's wrong. But we don't see any other way out. When we weren't sure who to turn to, mainly because of some confidentiality and privacy reasons and so on. And so she said, when I saw that you guys are doing it, then it's like, tell us what it takes and so on. So we took them on as clients and started working with them and applying the pattern that God had showed us. And within a few weeks, they started to like move towards their breakthrough. The way that she described it to me is, uh, my heart started to soften towards him. And
Mm.
once the heart started to soften, then that basically paved the way to willingly do the things that you needed to do. Until then, you knew what you needed to do, but your heart was not in the right place. And so when once we saw that happening, then it's like, okay, obviously, we did hear from God, and this process works. So we started connecting with, or letting the other people know, particularly our pastor friends, because we knew that, because I was still pastoring, I knew that whenever I ran into a situation where somebody needed, more help than just a little bit of advice, I always referred them to somebody else, because that
Mm.
was just not my specialty. And so I knew many of my pastoral colleagues would be in the same boat. So I said, guys, here's something that Slojan and I are doing now. And if you have anybody in this boat that, that needs more time and attention, then, we'd appreciate you sending them to us. So then we started to get, like a fairly regular stream of referrals. And then we also, in the meantime, found out about other people who were doing something similar to what we were offering. and went and learned from some of them. Like not as apprentices, but pretty well like just attending whatever they were offering. And in the process, our marriage got even better. Like we went even deeper, and then we started to apply some of those things, added them into our mentorship, and eventually got it to a point, Miracle, where we could say without the shadow of a doubt that every couple that has ever gone through our process and done everything we asked them to do has received their breakthrough. And so I was working with another online mentor at this point, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to suggest something to you that I believe you need to do." It says you actually are in a place where you can guarantee results. And so in the relationship space, hardly anybody will guarantee results. And so if you say offer people a money back guarantee, first of all, he says you can also bump your prices. And he said, no, you're charging way too little for the kind of service that you're offering. So bump it up, offer a guarantee, and see what happens. And so, but he said you also need to make sure that you keep the couples really accountable to you. The expression he used was you hold their feet to the fire and make sure they do everything. That's what makes the warranty work. And if it doesn't work, if they don't do everything, they lose the money back guarantee. So we put out
Mm.
the guarantee, and again through a referral, this couple connected. That's the story I want to share with you.
Mm.
And so when they came to us a few months before that, he did something of a sexual nature, like basically something really stupid. And so, and when she found out about what he was doing, like she got so mad, she packed up her bags, packed up the kids. They had two children at the time, and basically
Mm.
just left. Like that's how upset she was. Of
Mm.
course, then when things cooled down a little bit, they tried all sorts of counseling, worked with pastors and so on, spent a lot of money, and but they weren't really getting the results that they wanted. They still did not want to be together, even though they were making some changes. So when a mutual friend referred them to us, and we met with them, she said afterwards, she said, actually, when your process was good, looked good, but she said what really got her attention was the fact that you were offering a money back guarantee, because by the time we came to you, we'd already spent like thousands of dollars and had nothing to show for it, and nobody would offer anything close to a guarantee. And
Mm.
so they started doing everything, maintaining accountability and so on. And a miracle, it didn't even take the full 3 months, which is our mentorship usually is weekly for 3 months. It didn't even take that long. They got their breakthrough. Like the way they started looking at each other changed. Because when they first
Mm.
came, like there was so much anger, especially in her, great
Mm.
disappointment. Her husband is a godly guy. He just kind of gave into some sexual temptation. And so, but for her, she just didn't know how to handle it, and the only way she could handle was with anger. And
Mm.
so didn't want to look at him, didn't want to have any interactions with him. And then just to watch that change, and we actually contacted them about 2 years ago, because we published a book where we lay down our whole process, called
Mm.
the Unbreakable Marriage. Little plug for our book here, there we go.
Yeah.
And so we contacted them and said, hey guys, can you give us an endorsement for the book? And so by this time they had a baby girl. And so and she said, this really, kind of, I still get emotional thinking about it, because she
Mm.
said, this little girl will not be here today if it weren't for what we did with you guys.
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and so you see hear those kind of testimonies, then it confirms that saying yes to that calling was the right thing to do, because now
Mm.
not only have we changed this couple's marriage for good, but it's already having an impact on another generation, and it'll
Mm.
continue generations way beyond what we could actually even see right now. And so
Mm.
that's the joy of seeing somebody coming to you in that state of brokenness. And I tell you a number of stories of couples who came in similar circumstances. It was not always a sexual reason. Sometimes they just got into some poor patterns. A lot of times, and by the way, this is something I do want to mention to give hope to your listeners, is that like we have a fundamental principle, and the fundamental principle is that you do not have marriage problems. You are two individuals with your own problems coupled together in a marriage, and
Mm.
together you have now given birth to marriage problems. So if you want to really restore your marriage and you focus only on finding solutions to your problems, it'll turn out to be an exercise in futility. You will have some temporary success, but ultimately the problems that you brought into the marriage, which are still in you, especially hurts that have not been healed, like we're still shocked at the number of people that carry wounds of trauma, dating back to their childhood, fear of abandonment because the father left the mother or mother left the father, whatever the case may be. Like all these deep roots that are still there. And until you get to the point of, I mean, you cannot erase memories, but you can push them down, or you can get to a place where when that memory pops up, you don't have the same kind of emotions attached to it that'll drag you down. And
Mm,
so we stress that very strongly in our mentorship, that once you you change yourself the way that you need to change, then we can teach you all sorts of stuff that you'll apply and you'll actually get results. So
mm,
a second thing that goes with it is actually shifting the spiritual atmosphere in the home. So a lot of times we find that again, by the time people come to us, the atmosphere in the marriage is really toxic. They don't trust each other. There's a lot of anger and hurt, and so they're trying to do good things in a toxic atmosphere, and nothing grows for in the long term and bears fruit when the atmosphere is toxic. And so we help them to shift that atmosphere. Like, as a matter of fact, one of the pastors, he heard what we were doing and he said, what y'all are doing, you are discipling married couples,
mm,
which in the church, we most churches don't do that. We do have discipling processes and programs for new believers and so on. But he said if I look back at all the couples in our church that have gotten divorced, it's because nobody discipled them. And so
mm,
our process essentially brings them to the place, and our goal is not just to take them to a point where they're getting along, and then, like, bye bye. We want to give them something that they can take with them for the rest of their lives. And so after the initial three months, which is on a weekly basis, then we have a 3-month follow up beyond that, where they meet with us, once a month. So like a progress report. And we also give our couples 24/7 access to us while they're mentoring with us, so that if something comes up, they don't have to wait till the next week to go see the counselor and then bring it up, which is the way most professionals operate, with good reason. But ours is not the same. Ours is a mentorship, and so it's almost like you're moving in with us or we're moving in with you, and being available to you
mm,
for any situation that may come up. And so because of that, and again, like, your show is called God, Sex, and Love, and so one of the presenting problems always is lack of sexual connection. you know if you don't want to look each other in the eye, when you're vertical, you certainly don't want to look each other in the eye when you're horizontal. And
mm,
so when they
mm,
come again, sometimes people think it's a sexual problem, and it's not a sexual problem. It's an intimacy issue. And the
mm,
intimacy is not about intimacy in the bedroom. It's the intimacy that is developed outside the bedroom. So how do you treat each other? What kind of sexual trauma or wounds, are you bringing in that you haven't talked to your partner about? And so your spouse touches you a certain way, and if it brings back a flashback of a horrible memory, and you don't tell your spouse that, they're saying, well, I'm just doing something normal. Like, what are you getting so upset at me about? Okay. And also affection, how you treat each other, how you affirm one another, compliment each other, build each other up outside the bedroom, has a lot to do, with how you interact with each other, when you're together, in sexual intimacy. And so teaching some of these things, but we cannot simply teach, like some of these strategies and techniques and so on, unless there's a healing that has happened at the deepest levels of someone's being. And so, unfortunately, because our society is very solution oriented, sometimes people think, well, if I just, follow so and so's teaching, apply these different techniques of lovemaking or whatever, then things will get better. Well, everything will make a difference, of course, but it doesn't become sustainable, because all of a sudden, like something from the past, or if you're going to bed angry and all of a sudden, you tell your spouse, oh boy, you look so beautiful, so gorgeous, handsome, and you still have some unresolved issue, like, expect it to be mechanical more than anything else. So these are some things that we really like to go to the root of the issues, because we just want people to have something that will be long lasting, in impact. That and so that's what we always tell people. Like, our mentorship is not cheap, but look at this as an investment that you make right now, for the rest of your married life. And so, and we'll guarantee the results. If you do everything that we do, and you don't get the results, no problem, we give you money back. And so far, we haven't had to give anybody their money back. We've kicked a few people out of the program, because they weren't doing everything that was required of them. And so we've had the conversation, say, guys, if you keep going like this, one day you will badmouth us. You'll say, oh, we gave the Sams all this money and we didn't get the results. We don't want that on our conscience. So we're going to give you a bit of an ultimatum, shape up and do everything, or let us know right now that you're not serious about doing it on a regular basis. And, like, we'll part ways, we'll come up with some kind of an arrangement. We'll, keep some money for the work we did and give you back the rest. And so we believe very strongly, that no matter what stage a marriage may be at, that God can restore.
Mhm.
But for God to do what only He can do, the husband and wife have to do what only they can do. And so that's where we come in. We teach you what only you can do. And when you do that, we see God move in supernatural ways, and bring about reconciliation, restoration, where people didn't think. The couples actually tell us in their testimonials afterwards, we actually didn't think you could help. But we thought, if we get divorced without at least taking one more stab at it, then we couldn't live with it. So that's why we came to
Mhm.
you. And lo and behold, here we got the breakthrough. Hallelujah.
Okay. Amen. I know I can sit here and talk to you all day, man, because I honestly I might pick your brain a little bit when we get done. um, but I was gonna ask you one more thing about something you said, but I don't know if I don't want to be long your time here. Okay, I'll just say it just in case. So earlier you mentioned when you were still kind of going back and forth about, whether you was going to do this or not. And you said you had some interactions with some gentlemen and whatnot, and that they got to a certain plateau, right? And you basically God had you to ask them about their marriages and whatnot. Like, and I'm not sitting here saying I've been studying this a lot of stuff, but I have come across the verses that tell us that, again, the interaction with your wife does have that type of impact on the rest of your life and stuff. And so
Yeah.
sometimes people go through things, and at least this is what I've witnessed. And it's not just men, but but I've seen it on both sides when it comes to men and women. But I guess you can speak more to the men, or whoever you feel like speaking to at this point. Um, I guess, like, not just say how much you've seen that, but like how much it means to get that relationship right. I mean, I feel like for me, but what I'm observing is that we need to get a relationship with God together, and then if you're married, get that relationship with your spouse together, in order to truly see the blessings from the Lord. But I mean, and I feel like I've been trying to share that so much. And that's why I want to kind of pick your brain probably afterwards, just because I'm like, I'm kind of struggling a little bit with it, because I'm like, Lord, like, I feel like you put some stuff in me to give, but people don't want it. It's like, I don't know if I need to give people money back plan. I don't know, but I'm not even charging. I'm just giving it. But I find myself to be so like, I don't know. I think I'm learning to like not take it on so much, but that's on a whole nother thing. I just kind of want you, if you want to share or talk on that whole thing about the importance of getting things right again with God, your spouse, in order to truly see the things that you want to happen in your life. Not to be like that's going to be the thing that, but I feel like sometimes that's the first domino that people are missing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to do everything else, and then it's like, but are you right with God? Is things right with you and your spouse? Like, you know, I feel like so much hinges on that, but we're ignoring that part for some reason.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just
Like,
wanted to
like
ask
these days, there's a lot of emphasis on mental health,
you.
and even businesses are very aware of it and make sure that there's if there's stress, that which everybody has stress, and the higher up you climb the ladder, the more stress you have. That the stress does not affect your mental health, and so there's a lot of emphasis on preventing depression or anxiety or helping those who have it, cope with it. That seems to be the main emphasis, so it doesn't interfere with their work. To me, even more insidious, you know, killer of productivity is actually relational stress. The only thing is, relational stress doesn't show up openly,
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace. So somebody can, put on a good front at work, and some, and the thing is, in certain positions, and even in the business, you have to put on a good front because you cannot take anything out on your customer, or your colleagues. But deep down, you're hurting. And so, like, people are dreading going home, because of the stress they will face when they get home. Some turn into workaholics. They'll spend more time at the office, or just go out and do something rather than go home and face it. Or they try to dull it with, with alcohol. These days, drugs become, more of a easier way out than alcohol. And so relational stress, will get to you, and will actually get you if you don't pay attention to it quickly enough and do something about it. And so one of the things that, like, because we work with some business owners and stuff, one of the things, we encourage them to do is, when they have their, the close calls and so on with their managers and so on, like, ask them about their, how are things at home. you know Not that I'm being nosy, but I just want to make sure that, you don't have any stress at home, that could be potentially impacting, you in the work that you're doing for us. And to even give them permission to address it, because a lot of times people feel like, well, if I bring that up, then, like, that could hurt me adversely. And so it's like, let's be open about it. you know and so one of the things we found is that, first of all, on a very practical level, when the stress level at home goes down or is completely taken care of, where there's total harmony and unity, it basically frees up their mind to focus on being creative. And that's one of the things relational stress will do. It'll affect your creativity. And so, the second thing that happens is that, so let me ask this question of all of your audience. If Do you find yourself getting angry very quickly, at people, that you work with, or even your
Mm-hmm.
customers? They say something and you're getting really angry, and by nature you're not really a person that, blows a stack. Could it be because of some relational stress that you are either suppressing, or you cannot explode at home, and now indirectly, is showing up in the way that, like, you're not going to say anything to actually jeopardize, what you're doing, but the emotion inside of you, if anger seems to come up more often than not, it's something that you're suppressing, from relational stress. And
Mm-hmm.
so you got to be aware of those kind of triggers, or those emotions is really what you really need to pay a lot of attention to. And so when you start addressing it, so here, let's say somebody's an employer, a boss here. So what often employers end up facing is an employee who all of a sudden comes and says, you know what, I got to take the next few weeks off and work on my marriage, because things are at a place where, like my marriage is breaking up. So all of a sudden the boss is like, but you're my right hand guy, you're my right hand gal, I can't go 6 weeks without you. So if you want to prevent that kind of scenario from happening, then make sure that you're doing something proactively to ensure that your employees are also, taking care of stress in their marriage. So, like, mental health, mental wellness retreats, why don't maybe, employers should be more intentional about arranging some kind of a retreat, for their employees and their spouses together,
Mm-hmm.
and just, offer something, something. It may be something minimal, or give them an option. Hey, you know what, if you are in a place of stress, here is something that you can do, whether it's a marriage mentorship like we are offering, or a counseling package with somebody, and we will take care of the bill for you, or we'll pay 50%, whatever the case may be, to to make that kind of part of the culture. As a matter of fact, Miracle, a few years ago, this was just before COVID, I think, or maybe no, so it was during COVID. Sloan and I had this thought come to us that, like, I was working with guys primarily, and they were part of all these, masterminds and so on. And so, in some cases, the women were also, but they were not together in a mastermind. So we had this thought: what if we have a kingdom couples mastermind, and
Mm-hmm.
provide an opportunity for them to come together as a couple, and they can talk about what's going on in their business and get the feedback and so on. But we also take 15 minutes, at every time we meet, to basically focus on some aspect of marriage that we can
Mm-hmm.
share, so that you know it becomes as valuable a part of their success in their business as anything else that they may do, as advertising or marketing, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think part of it is taking it as, because God made us, as spirits, as spirit beings with a soul and a body. And so the soul, longs for relationship. And so if there's any relationship issues, then we're not being holistic, we're not holy the way that God wanted us to be, to function with that wholeness. And so yeah, so to me, I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but just to say that this is a very, very important aspect that we cannot neglect. And also I just feel in my spirit to talk to anybody that is listening, that is in leadership in their church. Yeah, like, people in leadership in the church are in the worst position to seek out help, because sometimes when they reach up to their supervisors, then it's turned on them. They're asked to step down and so on, and so they suffer with it. And then eventually it gets to a point, where the other person cannot stand it and they walk out. So if you're in leadership, find a safe place. There are safe places like what we offer, and we're not the only game in town. There's others around, but find someone that you can be safe with, and take care of anything in your marriage that is causing stress. Because when you come to church in leadership, you can put on a very good show, but if your spouse is sitting there, deep down they're thinking, what a hypocrite. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so don't leave that hanging, or you get out of the church, get in your car, and you go at it. No, that's not a good example to set. And it's really funny, Miracle, if you look at this, the few passages in the New Testament where Paul talks about the qualifications of an elder, of a presbyter, whatever the word is used. One of the top qualifications, he's talking about men, it must be the husband of one wife,
Mm-hmm.
or have, I forget the exact word he uses, but essentially, like, you're a good parent, that your
Mm-hmm.
children are not out of control. In other words, what happens in your family life is something that's very valuable in the Lord's eyes. And so I would encourage you to take care of those things that nobody else gets to see, but deep down inside they're eating away at you. Well, don't let that eat away at you, because there's help available.
And there you go. There you go, Pastor Jiva. I really do appreciate you and your time. I don't want to be long anymore, but I mean, if there's anything else you would like to share with us before you go, feel free. And make sure you also tell us where we can find you, your books, and everything like that.
Okay, so the easiest way to get a hold of us is to go to our website, which I'm sure you'll provide the link. Miracle, the SAMS.ca is really the main website that we use, because we're the SAMS from Canada, so that's easy to remember. And our book, The Unbreakable Marriage, there's a few books with the same title that are available on Amazon, but this one with the picture of a hammer, hitting an egg and the head shattering,
Mm,
which, marriage is fragile, but a marriage covenant is actually very strong. And so the
mm,
enemy can try and break it, but he'll end up getting broken. And that's
mm,
available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, like online. If you can even go to your bookstore and say, hey, can you order this for us? Because we work with the major publishers, they'll be able to get a copy for you. And the book actually details everything that we do in our mentorship. We also, when you go to our website, we also have an e-course that you can use. You can work through this through it as a couple. We actually recommend that you don't do it on your own. Have another couple involved in the process. So there's some
mm,
accountability, because accountability is what really makes our process work the way it does. And
mm,
the fact that it's a little bit like going to the gym with a buddy. You'll go because you can't let down your buddy. Well, same thing here. You can let down this other couple, and you can work through it. And if it doesn't work, if you're not able to work through some things on your own, get the help you need by reaching out to someone, including us.
Awesome. Well, you're welcome back anytime, Pastor Jiva. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure spending. I didn't realize we were on for over an hour. The time went by so quickly. You are obviously a very good interviewer. You ask
Oh,
the questions and let your guests talk, especially when the guest is a preacher. That's a delight.
yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the wisdom you shared. Thank you so much.
Wishing I would have a one night affair.
Thank you so much for watching the GSL Talk Show, and thank you to Pastor Jiva Sam for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check out his endeavors, the books, coaching, whatever you need, you guys. Check him out, full of wisdom, and looking forward to talking to him again. Have a good night.